We will follow MS Harald Jarl from Trondheim to Kirkenes. She was built by Trondheims Mekaniske Verksted in 1960. Today she is the oldest ship in regular service in the Norwegian Coastal Express lines. Her length is 87.4 meters and she is 13.3 meters wide. From the sea level to the top of the masthead she is 24.3 meters. The gross tonnage is 2,620 tons. The ship is allowed to carry 410 passengers, has 90 cabins and 164 bunks. The loading capacity is 25,500 cubic feet. She is owned by Troms Fylkes Dampskibsselskap in Tromsø. The maritime crew consists of 17 persons. The restaurant personnel varies from 5 in the low season to 20 in the high season in the summer. The ship was modernized in 1985. MS Harald Jarl is 40 years old, but equipped with modern navigation equipment. We will revert to this later. In a few minutes we will reach Ørnes in Glomfjord. The captain is on the bridge and is going to dock the ship. Today the weather is very good and the hatch can be opened as we are reaching the harbour. The northbound coastal liner comes to Ørnes every day at 9 a.m. and stays here for half an hour. In the course of the night we have been to Rørvik, Brønnøysund, Sandnessjøen and Nesna. The chief officer gives orders to the able seamen in the front.
Ja, da må vi være klar med kasteline.
About 20 kilometers from Ørnes you will find Glomfjord with Norsk Hydro's plant for making fertilizers. Part of the cargo goes to the plant. Ørnes has been a trading port since 1795.
Ja, da skal vi sette fast springen der.
Many times during the voyage, shore excursions are arranged. If you want to see Svartisen Glacier, you can board a smaller boat at sea. From Svartisen, a bus will bring you to Saltstraumen and then Bodo, where you board MS Harald Jarl. On every voyage, there is a guide on board. Here you can see her on board MS Meløy Cruise 2. The round-trip passengers board, for instance, in Bergen or Trondheim, stay on board to Kirkenes and return to the port of departure. The round-trip passengers are the main passengers in the summer. More passengers take part of the voyage, but many only take shorter journeys, for instance from Bodo to Svolvær. In the ceiling, clearly visible, is the rudder indicator, which indicates the precise position of the rudder. The manual steering of the ship is done by the small lever. The pulses produced are transmitted to the steering engine at the rear of the ship. We are now sailing slowly into the harbour of Bodo, where we will dock at 12:30, about 24 hours from Trondheim and 3 days from Bergen. We will stay in Bodo until 3 p.m. The passengers will have 2.5 hours to visit the town. The ship is equipped with a Leon variable pitch propeller with a diameter of 3.66 meters. When the pitch alters, the main engine will be regulated automatically. The town of Bodo is an important commercial and industrial center. MS Harald Jarl operates the Norwegian Coastal Express in Norwegian Hurtigruten with 10 other coastal liners. All start in Bergen and return from Kirkenes. The journey takes 11 days. Consequently, one coastal liner leaves Bergen every day. All the ships are scheduled to dock and leave at the same time in all ports of call. Sunday the 2nd July 1893, the SS Vesterålen with Captain Richard Witt left Trondheim as the first coastal express liner. 3 days later they arrived in Hammerfest. From 1936 there has been a daily coastal liner from Bergen to Kirkenes. At Bodo, cargo will be discharged and loaded. MS Harald Jarl is a combined cargo and passenger liner, like all the other coastal express liners. The abled seaman operating the crane steers it with a flexible cable. Even to the upper cargo hold there is a long way down from the deck. When the upper hold is unloaded, the hatch to the lower hold is opened with the crane. On the quay at Bodo there is an car, popular among many big boys. MS Harald Jarl can take maximum 6 cars. They have to be lifted to the foredeck with the crane. This is quite a difficult operation, which requires 3 to 4 experienced men to avoid damaging the car. On every journey, cars are transported for shorter or longer trips. Sometimes they are taken on board in Bergen and transported to Kirkenes. From Kirkenes, the owner will drive the car back home. Even a ship must be allowed to admire her own reflection from time to time. At 3 o'clock we are ready to leave Bodo. The crane shuts the hatch and the beam is lowered. The bridge gives the signal to start, and the engineer starts the main engine. The main engine is built at Akers Mekaniske Verksted in Oslo in 1960, licensed by Burmeister and Wine in Denmark. The total effect is 3,450 horsepower. Then the engineer transfers the operating of the engine to the bridge. He signals this to the bridge, and the captain confirms. The engine has 5 cylinders with upper and lower pistons. The stroke of the upper pistons is 400 mm and that of the lower pistons is 1000 mm. The turbo loader with a speed of 5000 revolutions per minute is made by Brown Boveri. The chief officer now regulates the speed. Full speed ahead means 15 knots. The main engine is 8.5 meters long, 2.5 meters wide and 5 meters high. The weight is 120 metric tons. We are now on the mid-deck in the engine room. Here you can see the fuel pumps and the central lubrication system. It oils all the external points of lubrication in the main engine. The engineer controls the oil level in every device. Now we are on the lower engine deck. Through a small window, the engineer can inspect the oil cooler. The engineer must inspect the machines regularly and keep the engine log. After having started the main engine, the engineer closes the high-pressure valve. When the ship is docking, the main engine and the pitch of the propeller are regulated from the bridge. The movement is indicated in the engine room. Normally, the main engine moves only forward. When the ship backs up, the pitch of the propeller is regulated 90 degrees. During normal traveling speed, the engine runs at 144 revolutions per minute. The fuel consumption meter. The instrument panel. An identical panel is also placed on the bridge. This is the intake for the flush air for the main engine. At low speed, the fan motor starts in order to give sufficient air to flush the cylinders. The engines are continuously maintained. This is the job of the motorman too. The trademark of Akers Mekaniske Verksted from 1960. During heavy maintenance, the turning motor can move the engine in the desired position. In the engine room, there are also separators for fuel and lubrication oil. The valves for fuel and the manometers which indicate the pressure. The transfer pumps are used for pumping fuel from one tank to another, for instance from starboard tank to port tank. Like all other engines, there are oil filters for the lubrication oil. There are 3 diesel-powered generators for the supply of electricity. 2 are normally running, and the third is kept as a spare. The diesel engines are made by Bergen Diesel, and the generators are made by Siemens Schuckert. Each generator has a capacity of 400 kilowatt. the main panel with instruments for distribution of electricity. The donkey boiler is also placed in the engine room. It supplies hot water for the galley, the cabins, and wherever else needed. Even the boiler is equipped with instruments. If the ship is loaded with frozen cargo, this freezing compressor is started. It is possible to lower the temperature in both holds to around 20 degrees Celsius below zero. The repairman has his own little workshop in the engine room. Here he has his tools and a small lathe. Most of the repairs are done during the voyage, but sometimes it is necessary to do it when the ship is docked. There are two drainage pumps. The nearest is for seawater and the other is for spill water. The spill water is never pumped directly into the sea, but filtered in this device before being discharged. The power from the main engine is transferred to the propeller shaft. The pitch regulating must also be conveyed by the same shaft. At the rear is the thrust bearing. The torque from the propeller is taken up by this bearing. At the rear of the ship is the steering engine room. Whether the ship is maneuvered manually or by autopilot, all the movements from the bridge are transferred to the steering engine. Considering the size of the rudder stem, it is easy to understand the force needed to move the rudder. An indicator shows the precise position of the rudder. In case of emergency, if the transfer system should fail, it is possible to steer manually from the steering engine room. Order for the positioning of the rudder is given from the bridge via the emergency telephone, the steering panel with the gyro compass indicator and the autopilot. The gyro compass is placed in the middle of the bridge. Obviously, MS Harald Jarl is equipped with completely new radar systems. One 10 centimeters with a range up to 50 to 60 nautical miles, and the other 3 centimeters with a range of 20 to 30 nautical miles. A GPS or global positioning system tells us that we are approaching Svolvær. The position and the sailing direction are indicated on the electronic map. Even if the ship is equipped with modern navigation devices, it is a requirement of the law that conventional navigation equipment is available. In the holds there are smoke detectors. In case of fire, an alarm signal sounds on the bridge, and personnel on the bridge will get information on where the fire has started. Navtex is an instrument which distributes important information to all ships. The information is printed on paper to avoid misunderstandings. Weather forecasts, gale warnings, etc. are received in this manner. The manual telephone, which is not dependent on external electricity supply, has lines to the forecastle head, the engine room and the steering room. It is only used in case of severe damage to the ship when normal communication lines are interrupted. We are soon docking at Stamsund. Before docking, the ship must be turned to be able to sail from the dock. At a certain point, the anchor must be dropped. In this way, the bow will be held back. By continuing very slowly, the ship will turn.
Bakken.
Bakken, Bodo.
Styrbord anker er klar.
Styrbord anker plass.
We are again continuing northward. Normal cruising speed is 15 knots, but the ship can sail 19 knots for shorter distances. The whole voyage is scheduled to 15 knots. Even the newest liners sail at this speed. Minor delays can therefore easily be compensated. Every day and night we meet two coastal liners, and here comes MS Kong Harald. There is also a maneuver panel with indicators for the fire doors. There are 14 fire sections on board. There is also a lurch indicator. As you can see, it is very calm now. The watertight doors can also be shut from the bridge. Only the captain is allowed to do that. In case of emergency, one or more of the doors can be closed with this wheel. The doors can be manually opened or shut on the spot. From each section there are emergency exits. Late in the evening we arrive at Southbound, where we load and unload. Finally we winch on board a car. Also some port-to-port passengers disembark and some embark at Southbound. To leave Svolvær is rather challenging. The harbour is narrow and the ship has to be turned before it can sail. A hawser is fastened on the port side. When the ship is 90 degrees to the quay, the ship is slowly reversed and the winch on the forecastle head pulls the bow to the port side. This is the famous Svolvær turn. A precise collaboration between the seaman and the officer is necessary. We are now in the middle of April and it is still winter in Harstad. The northbound and the southbound coastal express liners meet here. MS Harald Jarl seen from the top deck of one of the new liners. We stop in Tromsø for 3.5 hours. It is therefore possible to take the cable car to the top of the mountain where we will have a fantastic view. Hammerfest is the world's most northerly town at 70 degrees 39 minutes and 48 seconds north. This is about the same as Point Barrow in Alaska. Hammerfest has 7,000 inhabitants. In Hammerfest, passengers from warmer countries could see something new. MS Harald Jarl brings a sparkstøtting, or push sledge, for the tourists. An American was so fascinated that he bought one to bring home. In Honningsvåg, we stop long enough to take a bus trip to the North Cape. In the middle of the winter, the road is usually closed, but now it is open a few hours a day. We had to follow a snowplow. The globe at the North Cape tells you that you are at the end of Europe, 71 degrees, 10 minutes and 21 seconds north. Some tourists believe that they are very near the North Pole, but there are about 2,500 kilometers to go. On the plateau there is a big cinema showing a film about the North Cape through the year. Quite frankly, the North Cape is not the most northerly point of Europe. That is Knivskjellodden, 71 degrees, 11 minutes and 48 seconds north, but it is difficult to go there. Has the Port Authority of Mehamn been in Kirkenes to get hold of these huge dumper tires? Kirkenes is the turning point of Hurtigruten. Before we leave Kirkenes, we will take a bus trip to the Great Mine, which was in operation a few years ago. Mining was the economic basis for Kirkenes. Today all the machines are gone, but the open pits will exist forever. The border of Russia is quite near, but we were not allowed to cross. We are not only far north, but also just as far east as Istanbul. MS Harald Jarl is now a southbound coastal express. We have just left Kirkenes. Can it be more beautiful?
Spørsmål til deg når det gjelder penger. Ja. For nå har jeg brukt opp en del av kontantene mine. I morgen trenger jeg mer.
Ja, men det får du til oss. Du kan få veksle inn både utenlandsk valuta og bruke kredittkort på den terminalen vår. Så det går veldig bra.
Det er kjempefint, for jeg har noe som heter Mastercard.
Ja, men det tar vi. Så der skal du få ut penger når som helst.
Ja, der kommer jeg etter frokost i morgen.
Ja, det er passe.
Det er fint. Og så har jeg et spørsmål når det gjelder båten.
Ja.
Når kommer vi til Tromsø i kveld?
Vi kommer inn klokka 1:30. Nei, 1:30 skal vi være inne. Ja, men vi går fra Tromsø klokka 1:30 hvis vi går på rute.
Akkurat.
Det kan kanskje bli litt forsinkelse, for vi har mye last, men da vil dere i så fall få beskjed. Da henger det tavle ved landnavnet vårt på land.
Jeg tror nok at jeg skal passe på å komme om bord.
Ja, det håper jeg at du gjør.
Ja, det skal jeg gjøre. Takk,
Ja.
takk skal du ha.
Du får en god kveld.
I like måte. God
Ja,
natt.
hei da.
In the night we meet the northbound coastal express MS Nordkapp. Risøyrenna is 4.5 kilometers long and has to be dredged ever so often because of the sandy bottom. The coastal authorities are working with 2 dredgers. Close to Risøyhavn is a 750-meter-long bridge between Hinnøya, the largest island in Norway, and Andøya. MS Harald Jarl has no problem in passing under the bridge. Risøyhavn has been a commercial harbour for more than 200 years. Down at the bottom of the ship are the provision stores with deep freezers and refrigerators. The provisions are sent to the galley with a small lift. The galley is quite small, considering the fact that food for 160 to 170 passengers has to be prepared here. The food should be special. The chef is stuffing the joint with apricots. Beef stroganoff is fried in this big frying pan. The cook in the cold galley is arranging the marvelous lobster dish for the lunch table. When everything is ready, the plates are sent to the pantry with the lift. Now everything is ready for the passengers to come. With such a variety, it is difficult to make a choice, but the waitresses will advise you. The dining room is grand within this. On this journey there is only one sitting, but in high season there can be 3. The officers have their own table. The crew have got their own mess room. Some officers also dine here. Crew going on duty eat just before going on, and crew going off duty eat just after. The crew also have their resting room, used by all members to relax. Everything from the passengers' dining room, the crew's mess room and the cafeteria is washed in the pantry. The shelves are constructed for protecting the plates in heavy sea. MS Harald Jarl also has a bar. At daytime it serves as a sitting room for the port-to-port passengers. In the cafeteria, the port-to-port passengers can buy food. In the lower saloon, where smoking is allowed, we find Kåre Espolin Jonsson's famous pictures from North Norway. This is Petter Dass, the famous poet and minister who died in 1708. The pictures are made on scraperboard and are rather dark. 5 of his pictures are permanently displayed here. From the upper panorama saloon there is a good view forward and to both sides. In spite of the fact that MS Harald Jarl is from 1960, the cabins are nicely fitted with private baths and toilets. The ship was totally renovated in 1985. As in all other ships, the captain's cabin is the best equipped. MS Harald Jarl is the only coastal express where the captain has a tub in his bathroom. At Stokmarknes, Captain Richard Witt founded Vesterålen Dampskibsselskap in 1881. He started the Coastal Express in 1893. The new Coastal Express Museum is therefore situated at Stokmarknes. MS Finnmarken, the greatest museum object in Norway, is a part of the museum. From Stokmarknes to Svolvær, we sail through Raftsunda, a 26-kilometer long strait. Some of the mountains on both sides are more than 1,000 meters high. It takes about 1 hour to sail through Raftsunda. We have shortened it to 20 seconds, with normal speed in between. To sail through Raftsunda is like a dream. Sometimes you will doubt there is an opening at all. In the middle of Raftsunda there is a fjord, Trollfjorden. We take a detour to have a look into the fjord. In the winter it is dangerous to go into the Trollfjord because of the risks of avalanches from the steep mountainsides. Now we are arriving at Svolvær, the local capital of Lofoten, with the famous Svolvær goat. Svolvær has 4,000 inhabitants. The next morning we cross the Arctic Circle, and we are halfway to Bergen. After Brønnøysund, we will see Torghatten, a mountain with a hole 160 meters long, about 25 meters high and 12 to 15 meters wide. We do not see the hole from the normal route, so we have to make a detour. Now we are back in Trondheim, the birthplace of MS Harald Jarl. Here we disembark 24 hours before the ship reaches Bergen.